How far would you go to find a cure at a terminal illness? What if one of your kids had autism and you were looking for something that might help? You could be so desperate that you'd try anything. And today we hear from people placing their hope in a product hailed by some of its supporters as a miracle cure. But the claims are not scientifically proven. The product is unlicensed in the UK and it's been put on the market by an entrepreneur with no medical qualifications. Yet vulnerable people are parting with hundreds of pounds to try this potentially risky treatment, which cancer charities have told us should be shunned. We'll hear from patients, critics and the man behind the company who makes claims like this.
If you are terminal stage 4 cancer with 2 months to live, you can confidently expect to be cancer-free in a year.
Cancer-free in a year. First, Ruth Evans has been investigating this. And Ruth, this is a firm based in Guernsey in the Channel Islands called Immunobiotech. They also trade as First Immune. What exactly are they selling?
Well, it's called GcMAF, and they claim that this is a protein which occurs naturally in the body and helps fight disease. And the companies say they found a way to extract this protein from human blood and turn it into a product that gets injected back into the patient and boosts their immune system. And
they say it has some breathtaking effects.
Yes, they claim that GcMAF can cure autism, chronic fatigue syndrome, HIV, and even reduce cancerous tumours by 25% in a week. But it costs nearly £500 for a small vial of the product.
£500? The cost isn't the only problem, though.
No, there's also the fact that GcMAF isn't licensed by the medicines regulator, the MHRA, so we can't be 100% sure what's in it. And there's no independent evidence proving that it works.
Despite that, there are whole communities of people online who think GcMAF is worth trying. Here are some comments from internet forums about GcMAF made by people all over the world.
My 6-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumour. She had 6 weeks of radiation in November, and we were told she has 12 months. Things were going great until June this year. The tumour has grown a little with devastating results. She is now bedridden with very little movement, has trouble swallowing and communicating. Her oncologist has given us a month. My question is, can this GcMAF be used to treat a tumour located in the brainstem of a 6-year-old, fast running out of options?
I've been using GcMAF since April 3rd every 3 days. Is it true that it will go after the tumour and break it up, but the tumour gets bigger in the process?
Hi all, I'm looking to start on GcMAF. My partner has a brain tumour and we've exhausted all avenues. Are there any clinics or private surgeries in the UK we can attend, please? Any info would be appreciated.
So lots of discussion there, Ruth, on the internet about GcMAF among some very desperate people seeking a cure for very serious illnesses. And you found some people are opting to use this treatment instead of conventional evidence-based cancer treatments.
Yes, so David Noakes, the man behind First Immune, recommends that cancer patients should stop chemotherapy altogether and rely on his treatment, which he says rebuilds the immune system to fight cancer with no side effects.
Stop chemotherapy, but GcMAF isn't licensed. Who's David Noakes to say that you should give up on chemo and try his product instead?
Well, we've seen a copy of his CV and it shows that he's been an IT consultant, and in 2006 he stood against Nigel Farage for leadership of UKIP. But as far as we're aware, he isn't medically qualified.
No medical qualifications?
No, but despite that, there are plenty of videos online where he claims to be able to cure cancer and gives medical advice. And this is one example from his YouTube channel.
So you should not take anything that is destroying your immune system. So we advise strongly, don't take chemotherapy because it will destroy your immune system.
So despite that lack of a medical qualification, Ruth, you've seen that people are taking his advice at face value.
Yeah, and he's got followers online all around the world.
But what does the law say about this?
Well, it's illegal to advertise that you can treat someone for cancer or give advice in connection with the treatment.
Let's speak to Kat Arney from Cancer Research UK. Good morning to you, Kat.
Good morning.
Just explain to us, if you would, because I know you've researched this extensively, how GcMAF is supposed to work.
Well, it's supposedly a molecule that's produced in the body, and basically the way it's supposed to work is that it sort of enables the immune system to recognise and destroy cancer cells. Now, the really big problem with this is that the research, the scientific research that supports this is certainly, in my opinion, not incredibly strong. Many of the scientific papers that are looking at GcMAF have actually been retracted for a number of issues with them. And when I've talked to our researchers working in the area of the immune system, they are very unconvinced by the model of action and certainly by the apparent results that are in the papers that, as I say, several of them have been retracted.
So what are the problems with this theory then?
There's a lot of red flags generally around this treatment. One of the big issues we see with the miracle cures, which at the moment we have to put this in the bracket of apparent miracle cure that's unproven, when people claim that they can treat all kinds of diseases, AIDS, HIV, cancer, autism, these are diseases with very, very different causes, and certainly scientifically it doesn't make sense that one treatment is going to work for all of them. And as I say, there is the evidence showing that GcMAF has an impact on any disease, as we understand it as scientific evidence that's been peer-reviewed, that's been published in the literature, that stands up to scrutiny. It's certainly not what I would consider to be proof that this treatment works.
So you're saying it's never been tested as safe and effective in humans, and I'm guessing as Cancer Research UK, if a cure for cancer was out there, you'd be jumping up and down and popping open the champagne corks.
Absolutely. I mean, virtually every single person I work with has lost someone to cancer. Many of my colleagues have been through cancer. There is no one who wants a cure for cancer more than we do. That's why we do the work that we do. What we want is cures that we know work. There is incredibly huge amount of excitement in the field of immunotherapy at the moment. We've seen some new drugs that have been tested in clinical trials. They have cured some people. So if these treatments really work, they will stand up to testing, as, the new generation of immunotherapy drugs are standing up to testing. Unfortunately, in this case, GcMAF is not apparently standing up to testing. And when we hear the stories of people on the internet, the key thing to remember, if anyone is researching alternative cancer cures on the internet, the dead cannot speak. We don't know, for people who say they've had success, you don't know what other treatments they had, you don't know whether what stage their cancer was, you just don't know what's going on. And time again, when we look into these people's stories, often we find people have passed away, their stories haven't been updated, and we have no idea how many people have tried these treatments and they haven't worked. And it's understandable, absolutely understandable, that people will want to try anything, but we would strongly recommend that people stick with going to their doctor to talk about their options, to talk about legitimate clinical trials, and not to pursue alternative treatments on the internet.
Kat Arney from Cancer Research UK, thank you. Ruth, there are concerns as well about how GcMAF is made as well. It's a blood product which is injected into a patient's body, so obviously you need to make sure the blood isn't contaminated, or else there could be some pretty dire consequences for the patients.
Indeed, but in February this year, the medicines regulator, the MHRA, raided David Noakes' factory in Cambridgeshire, and they seized 10,000 vials of GcMAF. Now, they found that the site didn't meet good manufacturing practice standards, and they also had concerns that the product might be contaminated.
And one troubling discovery was that the blood plasma being prepared for sale was designated for research purposes only. The MHRA said it was not to be administered to humans or used in any drugs products. And as Gerald Hurdell from the MHRA told me, that was only one of several worries they had.
We'd found a number of areas which really concerned us. One, the site was not licensed for medicines manufacture. Secondly, some of the key raw materials that we use for the product were not adequately controlled. And thirdly, the actual manufacturing environment itself was inadequate. So on all counts, we believe that this product was not safe for human use.
Were they operating within the law?
No, they were operating outside the law. You're not entitled to make a medicine in the UK without being licensed, and that licensing process involves some level of inspection and approval of the facilities.
What are your concerns about anybody using GcMAF made there?
Well, I think probably the primary concerns, and there are a number, but the primary concerns are, one, the key input raw material for this product is human blood plasma. And for obvious reasons, there are quite tight controls over the source and over the use of blood plasma in manufacture. and they did not exist for this product. In fact, the blood plasma they were using was labelled for research purposes only, not for human use. So that's the first major concern. And secondly, this is essentially a sterile product, a product that was meant to be injected into people. And there are some sensible and appropriate controls on the environment to make sure that you don't get bacteria into a sterile product. Now, the filtration system and so on within that facility was not adequate and would not have given the level of confidence that we would require.
Do we know anything about the source of the blood that was used for the plasma that you found?
We have investigated that, and that's part of our current criminal investigation. So I wouldn't want to go into too much detail, but suffice it to say the controls for that plasma were not in place to ensure that patients are adequately protected.
And Ruth, you've spoken, I know, to people who've been taking GcMAF almost frantic when they learnt the MHRA had found the blood plasma there was labelled not to be administered to humans.
Yes, people I've spoken to say that it put a huge amount of stress on those already coping with serious illnesses.
So this GcMAF is made in a factory that doesn't meet industry standards. There's no independent research to prove the extravagant claims being made for it, but the treatment costs £500 a time. In a minute, the man selling it joins us live. We'd welcome your comments too. You can text 85058 or email goldberg@bbc.co.uk.
On DAB Digital Radio, digital TV, downloads and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
5 Live Investigates with Adrian Goldberg.
On 5 Live Investigates today, we've been hearing about a cancer product which the company selling it claims can save terminally ill patients. But the science for the claims has never been independently proven, and the man behind it has no medical qualifications. It's also unlicensed in the UK. Getting your comments on the text at 85058. You can email as well, goldberg@bbc.co.uk. On social media, we're at BBC 5 Live. David Noakes is the man behind the company. He joins me now. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Adrian.
So
Thank you for having me on your programme.
It's a pleasure. Where's the evidence that you can cure cancer?
Well, there are 200 scientists who've written 120 research papers on GcMAF over the last 25 years. We supply 9,000 patients through 350 doctors and clinics. We did. So that's 550 professionals who understand it well.
You talk about the scientific evidence. We've heard from Cancer Research UK about the number of papers supposedly supporting the success of GcMAF, who say that they've now withdrawn those papers. Papers around breast cancer, bowel cancer, they've been retracted.
2 of Dr. Yamamoto's papers, that's 2 out of 120, were retracted on the basis of false information supplied by the so-called charity, the Anti-Cancer Fund, which has big pharma directors on its board.
Well, all I'm saying is that some of the key bits of research, which are supposedly backing up the use of GcMAF, have been withdrawn. There's one study on breast cancer retracted. It failed to measure the progress of tumours. There were no controls of untreated patients to compare with. It involved just 16 people. And experts we've spoken to say that this is typical of the research that has gone into GcMAF.
Well, we have written 32 GcMAF research papers.
You have written them?
Our company, we employed 4 scientists and 7 doctors. And you say I'm not a doctor. Well, actually, Jeremy Hunt, the MP who is Minister for Health, is not a doctor either, but like me, he employs doctors.
He's not selling a cure for cancer, though, is he? And you are.
You have
no medical qualification, do you?
No, my doctors are all qualified, and so are my scientists.
You've given people medical advice yourself. We've heard you on your YouTube channel. You have no medical training. You're advising seriously ill people not to take chemotherapy. Isn't that breaking the law under the terms of the Cancer Act?
According to the Journal of Clinical Research, who did a massive study on cancer results, chemotherapy, which costs £40,000 a round, fails in 97.7% of cases.
I don't know that
5
study.
years.
I do know the Cancer Act, though, and I know that lay people are not supposed to give advice on cancer. You do, despite admitting that you have no medical qualification.
I follow the guidelines from my scientists, my doctors, and the 120 research papers written by scientists on GcMAF.
When the MHRA raided the lab in Cambridgeshire, they found material labelled not to be administered to humans. Why were you using that?
The MHRA protects the billion-dollar monopoly of the big pharmaceutical companies.
Doesn't it protect ordinary people and keep them safe from harm? This is what the MHRA said after they raided that lab in Cambridge. This blood plasma not to be administered to humans or used in any drug product poses a significant risk to people's health. This is stuff that you were selling and making money from.
The MHRA kills 200,000 people a year, according to the website mhracorrupt.st.
Are they a respectable, independent scientific organisation?
BBC Panorama, Parliament, 10 British public bodies have written reports that state the MHRA is corrupt. And the MHRA
you're talking about the MHRA being corrupt. Are you saying that they are wrong then to say that the plasma should not be administered to humans or used in any drug products, or that it posed a significant risk to people's health because the manufacturing standards were not up to scratch?
Our products were made to better quality than GMP products, and the statements made by the MHRA on our sterility are false.
OK, David Noakes, we'll hear more from you later. Let's hear now from Anne O'Connor, who worked as a PA for David Noakes for 6 months, 3 years ago. She's been giving me the inside track on his GcMAF business.
Had about 20 people he was treating that he said he trusted to keep their mouths shut. He'd been told he wasn't allowed to import it for onward sale via Guernsey, but he just flouted the law. He had a boat called the Annabelle Cassandra he used to bring it in from, and he had his own plane. So he had a plane that he'd bought from Bournemouth, he told me, a Libyan called Moses, and he had another gentleman he employed, and he said he used to just come in under the noses of customs and just bring in loads of the GcMAF.
When did you start to have concerns about the GcMAF product?
I had a great deal of difficulty getting any ideas about the product apart from what I could read on the internet before employment, until he trusted me, and it took him at least 2 months before he started to take me slightly into his confidence as to the product and what it was made of. And at one particular session I was sitting with him, and he actually started to open up to me, and he was talking about the product. I said to him, well, what do you actually do about how do you find your blood donors? And he looked at me for a second to see if he thought I was trustworthy. And he said, I don't have any. I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, it's all my blood. I said, you're joking. He said, no, it's completely mine. It's only a fraction of my blood. I go over to the lab and I extract it sometimes myself, and that is all that is used.
So you're saying that the blood that was used to make GcMAF was David Noakes' own blood, which he sometimes extracted himself from his own body?
Correct.
You say he told you that, but do you know he wasn't just having you on?
Oh, no, he was totally serious about this.
Did you ever see him extracting his own blood?
I didn't see him extract it, but he pointed to his arm, he rolled up his shirt, and he said, it doesn't hurt. I said, doesn't it hurt, because I hate needles? He said, no, it just takes a few seconds. It doesn't need much of my blood. And when it's needed, when they need some more, I go over and just give them a sample of my blood. And it's mixed 1 to 9 with a saline. I hated everything he was doing, to be honest.
There you go, that's Anne O'Connor. Now, she admits she was sacked by David Noakes and has been in a dispute over pay, but some pretty serious allegations there. Let's welcome back David Noakes. David, is this where you get blood from then? Is it your own?
Well, the reason we had to let her go was because she made so many mistakes. And
okay,
everything she has told you there is completely wrong.
Is the blood your own that you use?
It never has been. That's a complete lie.
Where do you get it from then?
We buy it from 2 American companies to FDA-approved American companies, and it's traceable right back to the source, and it's all done according to the law.
So you say according to the law. You say it's approved by the FDA in the United States, but it's not recognised by the MHRA in this country, who say it should not be administered to humans or used in any drugs products.
Right. Well, there are 30 reagents required to make GcMAF. And one of those is 0.1 grams of a blood product that we buy from FDA-approved companies.
Why don't you get it licensed in the UK by the MHRA?
It's the MHRA's job, when they found a treatment as successful as GcMAF, to get it out to the NHS, to get it out to the whole country, and to help us to do it. But the MHRA protect the monopoly of the billion-dollar pharmaceuticals. They close down any new, promising, inexpensive treatment. They do the exact opposite.
This is not about you then being a quack and making money from vulnerable people and refusing to license your product.
We give large amounts of it away to people who can't afford it. We are a benevolent, honest and philanthropic company.
David Noakes, thank you. Ruth, you've been investigating the US arm of this business.
Yes, a lot of the sales seem to have been made to the States, and David Noakes supplied GcMAF to a doctor called James Jeffrey Bradstreet, and he claimed to have treated 2,000 children with autism.
But like here, GcMAF isn't a recognised treatment for autism in the States, is it?
No, and as a result, Bradstreet was investigated by the US Food and Drug Administration, and they raided his clinic in Georgia in June this year. And just 3 days later, he was found dead after apparently committing suicide.
Yeah, and around the same time that was happening in America, the Swiss authorities started investigating David Noakes.
Yes, they were alerted after there were 5 seriously ill foreign cancer patients who were admitted to hospital in Lausanne in late 2014. And all 5 had travelled to Switzerland for treatment at a centre run by David Noakes' company, First Immune. And 2 of these patients died in Switzerland, and unfortunately the others passed away after returning home.
And these patients were terminally ill, so we're not suggesting that GcMAF caused their deaths, but the Swiss authorities say they were all placing hopes of recovery in David Noakes' treatment. Dr. Karim Boubaker was the regional medical director involved in the investigation being carried out by the local procureur or prosecutor.
We were concerned because it was a clinic which was not authorized, so it was a very old house near Lausanne, and we didn't know what kind of treatment they were giving in this clinic. When we realized, we decided to ask the procureur to open an inquiry. The second step was to go with the procureur and the police to try to find some proof of what was the suspicion from the university hospital. Prove that it was a place with doctor without authorization.
And when you actually arrived at the clinic then, what did you find?
We find a house with some medical room where a patient can receive some very basic treatment. There were some medical devices, medical doctor from overseas, and this doctor was not authorized to work in Switzerland. The people who were there, they told us that David Noakes was the owner of the clinic.
So the clinic had no authorization, nor did the doctors working in the clinic?
Yes.
And what kind of treatment were they receiving there?
2 kinds of treatment. The first one was injection from GcMAF. This treatment was not authorized in Switzerland. And the other part of the treatment was just only vitamins and food supplements.
What is your opinion of the clinic?
My personal opinion is that this is not a clinic, it's just a house where people with cancer were coming to receive some products, some drugs. The only one I saw and I can have a discussion with was a patient from Australia, and she was there 1 week, and she was at the end of a illness, a cancer, and she was expecting a lot from this treatment. But what I heard is that all the patients died a few weeks after coming in Lausanne. So there is a sort of lying to those patients, telling them that they could survive the cancer. And as doctor, I think it's not the way to do. It's not how I learn my job. Me, I think it's false hope.
There you go. That was Dr. Karim Boubacar, who said patients would charge around £2,000 a week to stay in that Lausanne house run by David Noakes' company. That centre is now the subject of a criminal investigation. Coming up after the news, more from David Noakes, the man selling GcMAF. How does he respond to the allegation that he's offering patients false hope? And after the VW scandal, we reveal research showing that some diesel cars are more polluting than buses and lorries. We'll take more of your comments as well. You can text 85058 or email goldberg@bbc.co.uk.
5 Live investigates.
5 Live investigates today cancer patients spending hundreds of pounds on a so-called miracle cure that isn't licensed in the UK and hasn't been independently proven to work. The man behind it, David Noakes, has admitted to us today that he has no medical qualifications. Cancer Research UK are advising patients to steer clear, and the medicines regulator, the MHRA, which raided a lab making the stuff, say patients were potentially put at risk. We're talking about something called GcMAF. Getting your comments today. Ruth Evans alongside me. And Ruth, Angela in Durham says, I work in the raw materials laboratory for a pharmaceutical manufacturer. The comments about the MHRA protecting the multi-million-dollar corporations is not only ridiculous, but insulting to myself and colleagues who are subject to their rigorous audits.
And someone else on the text says, why does this joker not want to develop this product as per an atypical pharmaceutical or biological product? This is ridiculous. Why not engage with the MHRA or FDA? Why is he not willing to do this properly if it really works and he really believes in it?
And Alan says, though, there are other materials available for cancer therapy from legitimate sources that are not licensed for use, probably because they are much cheaper than conventional chemotherapy drugs. Keep your comments coming. You can text us on 85058, email goldberg@bbc.co.uk or on social media at BBC 5 Live. Ruth, we've been talking about cancer, but GcMAF is also marketed as a treatment for autism, and there's even claims that it can cure it in some cases.
Yes, David Noakes' company claims that 8 out of 10 autistic children treated with GcMAF improve and 15% are cured. Now, I spoke to one mum who used it. She's called Marie Patterson-Ortiz, and she lives in the UAE. And she explained to me how much she struggled when she received a diagnosis for her son and how desperate she was to find something that might help him. And she was injecting her son then with GcMAF. We can't be 100% sure the product she got was from David Noakes' company, First Immune. No, but she was told it was coming from Guernsey, and we know that the man she got it from is a business associate of David Noakes, and he's been selling GcMAF in Dubai. Now, he told Marie that he was bringing it in inside flasks filled with ice cubes. But part of the problem with unlicensed products like this is that it is really difficult to trace the supply chain. Yeah. When Marie heard about the MHRA raiding the company in the UK and their concerns about the conditions the product was being made in and the potential risks of taking it, she stopped injecting it in her child. Yeah, she stopped immediately. And as we heard earlier, the blood plasma found at First Immune's factory was labelled not to be administered to humans or used in any drug products. So you can imagine how alarming that was for customers like Marie who'd been injecting it into their children. She told me how she felt.
I was really upset. I freaked out. You know, my husband and I, we look at each other and we're like, oh my God, we made a big mistake. It was a mess. So then I started looking at my son, looking for any signs, because they were talking about that GcMAF was probably contaminated. So I was like, oh my God. There was no way of really knowing solid information about what happened. Nobody contacted us about it. I mean, you're the first one.
And what were your fears?
I thought that some damage was done, brain damage, something to my son. You know, I was really worried about it. I thought maybe his blood was poisoned. I was thinking the worst.
You have parents that are desperate and they're trying to help their kids, and they do anything to help them. And I think they took advantage of that.
So that was Marie. Let's get a word with Catherine Hall, who's chair of the Guernsey branch of the National Autistic Society. Morning to you, Catherine.
Good morning.
You've had direct dealings with David Noakes, the man selling this product called GcMAF?
I have, yes, that's right. He approached me, 3.5 years ago, in 2011, to tell me that a doctor in America had discovered that the product he produced cured autism. I was extremely sceptical because it's unlikely that I wouldn't have known about some great breakthrough like that through the National Autistic Society and Research Autism UK.
And what were your concerns about this approach then?
Well, the fact that he was cold calling a local support group is not really the kind of behaviour you expect from the chief executive of a biotechnology company. What he was actually hoping that I would do and that the local branch would do would be to promote this product to local parents and families, to get them to try it, to provide feedback.
And did you?
Certainly not. My background is in healthcare, and I was appalled to discover that this product was a blood-derived injectable product, and it was being proposed that this stuff should be administered without benefit of medical supervision or sort of long-term follow-up.
What are the dangers of that?
Well, in any condition, you just don't know. This was an unlicensed, untested product, no actual testing for safety, let alone efficacy. Effectively, we've no idea what it would do in any condition.
And is there any evidence that it could help children with autism?
None whatsoever. To start with, Mr. Noakes talks about autism as a disease, a viral disease, so there is absolutely no evidence to support this. Autism is not a disease process at all. It's a developmental difference. So, in fact, you've got an unlicensed, unproven medication to treat something on the basis of an unproven hypothesis.
Catherine Hall, thanks very much indeed, Chair of the Guernsey branch of the National Autistic Society. And Ruth, despite everything we've heard about the international investigations in the US and in Switzerland, fears about the potential dangers, you found the company still willing to sell GcMAF from their base in Guernsey.
Yes, and under Guernsey law, it's illegal to sell or market a medicine without a licence. But when I called the company at their Guernsey base, I was posing as a customer trying to buy GcMAF for a child with autism, and I was told that the product was still available. Now, they were a bit cagey about sending it direct to the UK, but they said all I had to do was provide a European shipping address, which I did. And they told me that other British customers had done this with no problems.
Good afternoon, First Immune. How can I help you? What would you like to order?
The GcMAF.
Yeah, we do have a limited stock of GcMAF available from one of our distributors.
Okay.
Which, when gone, won't be available again.
Okay. So I was having a look on your website, and I wasn't sure how that works with kids with autism.
There's wonderful results. You can see quite a lot of it on the Facebook pages and testimonials and stuff on there, which is really good for other parents to see.
How can I order it?
So you can place the order over phone or email.
Okay.
So would you like to place that now?
Yeah, okay. And can you post to the UK now?
We can't post to the UK, but your registration's in Spain?
Yeah, I put a friend's address in Barcelona on my form. He might be able to take the collection for me. So why can't you post to the UK at the moment?
It's just because of the MHRA we aren't allowed to post to the UK, Ireland or Guernsey.
But you're based in Guernsey, aren't you?
Yeah, we're not allowed to have the product here either. The dispatch centre is based in Europe.
So where is it coming from in Europe then?
I can't disclose that, unfortunately, but it is in Europe and it takes 1 day to ship everywhere.
But what about getting into the UK? Does he need to sort of write anything special on it?
All that we've had people let us know is that they've just put that it's a vitamin D supplement on their papers if the post office asks them. So the total for that would be €660.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Now, in the end, Ruth, you didn't actually go ahead and make the purchase. It sounds like they're trying to get around the law there, isn't it? Saying they're posting within Europe, not the UK or Guernsey.
Yes, but the law is pretty clear on this. So in Guernsey, it's illegal to market or sell medicines without a licence, and they don't have one. Now, I called a Guernsey number. You heard the person on the phone there confirm that's where they were, and the company is registered there.
Let's get more from the man behind all this, David Noakes. David, it is illegal then to market or sell a product from Guernsey where you are. You've been warned about it. Why are you still doing it?
Well, we're not actually selling it. I mean, you need to understand that all immunobiotech's bank accounts were closed down. The MHRA used the compliance system and the restraint order system, both of which break our British Constitution and common law, because you are guilty and you're never given the chance to prove you're innocent. And in fact, a lawyer is not even allowed to accept his fee from you, so you are not allowed to defend yourself. The law is completely illegal.
David, sorry, I do want to give you a fair chance to respond, but you're not directly answering the question. We called a Guernsey number. That's where the company is based. We've heard evidence there of Ruth speaking to one of your sales operatives in Guernsey.
Yes, that's quite
marketing and selling the product, even though it is not licensed in Guernsey. And that is illegal, isn't it?
No, it's not, because the product that's being supplied is Goleic, which is a supplement which mimics the actions of GcMAF.
No, it's not. We asked for GcMAF, and we just heard that on the tape. That's what we ordered. That's what we were asking to buy.
It's not what you would have got. You would have been
so
advised.
we can't trust your sales operatives when we ring up and ask for GcMAF, and your sales operatives say you can buy GcMAF. They're not actually selling us GcMAF.
No, you are told during the process by the distributor that you will be getting Goleic, which is certified as a supplement in Germany and therefore completely legal throughout the whole of the European Union.
Okay, David, just hold on there. Ruth, you went to the point where you were given quoted a price and able to order it. Were you told that by that operative?
I was told it was GcMAF. I was told Goleic was also available, the new product, but I was asking about GcMAF, and that's what I was told I would be getting.
Ruth Evans, thank you. David Noakes, thank you as well. We did ask the Health and Social Services Department in Guernsey why this trade is still going on, why it's not been shut down. They told us an investigation is ongoing, so they are limited in what they can say, but they say they will act on any evidence of unlawful activity relating to the manufacture, sale or supply of GcMAF in or from Guernsey.
Across the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
5 Live Investigates with Adrian Goldberg.
And don't forget as well, we want to hear your stories. We get some great emails in, and I promise you that we look at them all. We are investigating quite a few of the stories that you've sent to us. Keep them coming though. Goldberg@bbc.co.uk. Now,